force-filled individual who had driven 200 miles from Binghamton and that range to carry out a murderous, racist rampage that he would live stream to the world. What happened here is simple and straightforward: terrorism. Terrorism. Domestic terrorism.
Joining me now for more on this subject is Khaled Beydoun. He's a professor of law at the University of Detroit Mercy School of Law. Welcome to the program. Now, before we speak about what President Biden said just there, I was really struck by something that you tweeted. You said, for 21 years, the US spent trillions on wars and passed laws to chase Muslim terrorists that don't exist. Meanwhile, white male terrorists have galvanized and grown. Does this explain in part what we've seen there in that Buffalo shooting?
Yeah, definitely. There's been, widespread neglect of white supremacists, hate groups that are largely white male for 20 years, and even longer than 20 years, which, has enabled the rise, has enabled the organization of white supremacists to collect, raise funds, raise visibility, and then inflict this kind of terror that we see in Buffalo.
And it's incredible because he was planning this for a long time. How does this not get on the radar, or how is this missed in the US?
Well, it's not unprecedented, right? Dylan Roof did the same. Stephen Paddock did the same in Las Vegas many years ago. These are not aberrational incidents. We see we see this happening at a frightening rate, and the reason it doesn't get the attention is because the culprits are white, right? People largely envision terrorism, violence through the prism of Muslim masculinity, largely.
And I just want to come on to the subject of your visit here to Istanbul. It's with regards to your book, American Islamophobia, Understanding the Roots and the Rise of Fear. What about your assessment of Islamophobia outside America, maybe France, also India? We're seeing constant attacks on the Muslim community there.
Yeah, it's the same kind of populism in the United States and in Europe. We see the rise of, white populism, which is largely xenophobic and Islamophobic. In India, it's Hindu supremacy, so it's a populism that's tied to that form of identity. What's really frightening about what's happening across the world is, whether Europe, North America, South Asia and beyond, is these populist movements, the common denominator is a very staunch and violent fixation on Muslim identity as a means to scapegoat what's happening economically and politically, but then again to galvanize hateful groups, whether politically like we see in France with the last election, Marine Le Pen was close to winning, or in India, with the rise of the Modi regime and how pervasive and violent Hindu supremacy has been.
It's incredible. I want to ask what the solution is, but it just seems like it's so hard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one possible solution is the retrenchment of the war on terror. I think that we can't be naive and not think that the American global war on terror has not enabled, intensified, facilitated distinct forms of Islamophobia across the globe, whether in France where it pre-existed, or in India where it's relatively novel, or domestically, as we see in Buffalo, giving rise to young white men, an 18-year-old white male walking into a largely black community and shooting up, 10 people, 8 of them being black.
And what about gun control itself in the US? Because we heard President Biden say that he would try to convince Congress, but it would be very difficult. Looking at that from the outside in, that feels hopeless. And I'm sure you're touring and you're going around, and we think, why does this happen in America again and again?
Well, being an American, I can tell you America is a crazy place because the individuals who are the most xenophobic and the most Islamophobic are the most overzealous when it comes to gun rights. They're staunch proponents of the Second Amendment, which enables the kind of gun access and gun toting that leads to these kind of violent crimes like we see in Buffalo. So the more xenophobic, the more Islamophobic, the more guns become accessible because that means that the far right is becoming more prominent politically.
Khaled, I wish we could end on a hopeful, positive note, but sadly, no. Khaled Beydoun, thank you so much for your time and coming in to be with us here at TRT World. Thank you.
Thank you so much.